Monday, September 21st, the start to another week, and we are live from Bloomberg's World Headquarters. Coming up in the next hour, a crucial meeting for the Bank of America board. Directors are looking at their options if New York State sues CEO Ken Lewis over the Merrill Lynch deal. Plus, at 8:23 Eastern Time, the battle over net neutrality. It is a fight that pits Verizon and AT&T against web giants such as Google and Yahoo. The FCC holds a hearing today. And at 8:38 Eastern Time, healthcare, regulation, and the economy. Senate Majority Whip Richard Durbin is President Obama's point man on Capitol Hill for all three of those, and we're going to talk to him live in just a few moments, in fact, at the bottom of the hour. But let's get you caught up on what the markets are doing right now. Equity futures, after that big run-up we saw in the last few weeks, now indicating a lower open. S&P futures down by 0.6%. Dow futures off by 47 points. Treasuries, in the meantime, are higher for both the 10-year and the 2-year. Remember, there's going to be three major auctions later this week. For the dollar, which has been on a weakening trend, it is stronger, though, today against the yen and also against the euro. For crude oil prices, down right now by crude oil is down by 144, trading there at 70.60, so just hovering at that key level. Well, it wouldn't be Monday without some merger news, and Dell will buy Perot Systems for $3.9 billion. That news out just a few hours ago, and John Ehrlichman tracking that deal for us. John.
Good morning, Betty. Let's start with the stock performance. Quite simply, Perot up and up big time, while Dell shares are slumping in the pre-market. Perot is up about 65%. It's pretty close to the premium that's being offered in this deal of $30 a share, while Dell, which, by the way, has been an incredibly hot stock, it has doubled since March, losing some ground in the pre-market. And by the way, an interesting stat for you, if you look back at the past 5 years for Perot Systems, you are not going to see a stock that was anywhere near $30. In fact, you have to go back to 1999 for the last time this stock was at 30, although if you want to get a deal done with Perot Systems, you have to get the Perot family on board. They're in the driver's seat. Now that Dell has done that, you would argue this is a done deal, arguably. Now, we should point out that one thing that has played favorably for Dell recently is margin related to their server business. Margins in the IT services area is one area where they've been looking for improvement, along with Michael Dell's cost-cutting, Betty.
And John, this is a cash deal. So Dell's cash position has been improving. Makes sense that they would make an acquisition.
But, well, yeah, absolutely. The numbers are very interesting. If we look over the last few quarters, what's been happening with cash flow from operations. Last quarter, for example, it was $1.1 billion. That was an improvement over their fiscal first quarter for 2010. And that first quarter number was an improvement over their fiscal quarter for the fourth quarter of 2009. In fact, if you took the cash flow from operations from those 3 quarters and added it to some of the money that they received by issuing debt earlier this year, that covers most of the cost related to this deal. Back to you.
Okay, John, thanks so much. We're going to monitor that, of course. In the meantime, why isn't that deal giving the markets a bigger boost? Well, Suzanne O'Halloran has more on the New York Stock Exchange. Suzanne.
Hi, Betty. Well, it looks like investors are really reevaluating the run-up we've seen in U.S. stocks since those March lows, trying to determine whether or not the rally does justify valuations. Now, we just spoke with noted economist David Rosenberg, and his view is stocks may be simply overvalued.
My sense is that the market is being really fueled here by technicals and momentum. You could argue liquidity, but I think that it's overshot the fundamentals, so I'm a little nervous, at least over the near term.
Well, one stock that may not be overvalued is Walmart. We have a positive call on Walmart today, even though it's not really impacting the stock thus far. The team at HSBC says investors should get in and buy Walmart, which is down about 11% this year. They say the company's international business is not reflecting where the stock price should be trading. So they have a $61 price target on shares of Walmart. As I mentioned, shares of Walmart are lower despite that positive call. It is a Dow member, Betty, so that is another weight on U.S. stock futures, which, as you pointed out, continue to trade lower. We have a lot of economic data at 10 a.m. that could change the tone of the market. But for now, we are pointing to a lower open despite that deal from Dell and that big jump, as John mentioned, in Perot Systems. Back to you.
Okay, Suzanne, thanks so much. Well, President Barack Obama flooded the airwaves yesterday, appearing on 5 Sunday talk shows to push his health care overhaul. Hans Nichols is at the White House with more. And Hans, you know, he should get his own talk show with all those appearances we saw.
he basically has it. You know, there was so much coverage about the president appearing on all 5 Sunday shows that Obama aides thought that their message about the importance of health care was delivered before any of the broadcast actually aired. Now, when those tapes did go to broadcast, the president made a little news on the economy. He said it would shed more jobs. Now, how to bring back some of those jobs, reverse that trend, that's something the president will be talking about today in Troy, New York, in upstate New York. Of course, Troy is just a few minutes away from the capital of Albany, where there's Governor Patterson, where the White House aides are a little bit concerned about his reelection. So there could be some politics just minutes apart from Troy to Albany.
Hans, I mean, there are reports that the White House, though, wants Governor Patterson to drop out of the race. Why?
Well, they're concerned about the poll numbers that Patterson has, and that's a concern that the White House says is shared by the state party up in Albany, up in New York. But again, this is Chicago politics on the Hudson. This is a White House that has not hesitated to weigh in and put their thumbs on the scale when they think that they have an important political point to make. They're not above letting everyone else know that they are the White House and he is the president.
Okay, thanks so much. Hans Nichols at the White House. In the meantime, Senator Chris Dodd has a plan to change banking regulation that's bound to make waves from Washington to Wall Street. The chairman of the Senate Banking Committee wants to create one banking super regulator, combining the Fed, the FDIC, and the Office of Thrift Supervision and the comptroller of the currency. Now, this is all according to his office. President Obama and House Financial Services Chairman Barney Frank would rather leave the Fed and FDIC independent, though, combining only the OTC and the OCC. Dodd's proposal is likely to face strong resistance from the financial services industry, as well as regulators themselves who fear losing authority. Now, those who want to consolidate the regulators say the current system allows banks to shop for the most lenient agency. And also, jailed Texas financier Alan Stanford is getting a dream team of lawyers in his $7 billion fraud case, even though he says he has no money. Monica Bertrand has the details on that. Monica?
That is right, Betty. You have Stanford. He might claim to have this beer budget, but he's getting the Dom Perignon of legal teams. Some of the best lawyers in the city of Houston are part of the Stanford Dream Team, and taxpayers are footing the bill. Attorney Kent Schaefer, famous for his high-profile clients, custom suits, and black leather cowboy boots, will lead the defense team for Stanford. Schaefer's clients have included the late Farrah Fawcett and former Louisiana Governor Edwin Edwards, who is serving a racketeering sentence. Now, last week, a judge assigned Stanford's case to the local federal public defender's office with the addition of private attorney Kent Schaefer after ruling Stanford had no money for lawyers. Now, the lead on the new Dream Team defense says that he's not doing it for the money, since Schaefer typically charges about $600 an hour and will only be paid the standard federal rate of $110. Schaefer says that he took the case because he thinks it will be intellectually stimulating, maybe a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Alan Stanford's assets were frozen in February after the Securities and Exchange Commission sued him and 2 business associates, accusing them of bilking investors out of $7 billion through misleading investments. Now, in June, federal prosecutors indicted Stanford and 4 others on similar claims. Stanford has denied any wrongdoing. He's in a Texas jail awaiting trial on 21 felony charges that could keep him in prison for life if convicted. And Betty, several other high-profile lawyers have already come and gone from the Stanford case for fear they wouldn't get paid. Back to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Monica. Well, speaking about pay and executive pay, the Conference Board, a nonprofit research group, is proposing measures on executive pay that closely resemble what the Obama administration is suggesting. The board says executive compensation should be linked to incentives. Now, the report says incentives should enhance long-term benefits for businesses and shareholders, and says shareholders should be consulted on pay decisions, and no companies should not pay for personal travel and bloated severance packages. AT&T and Tyco have endorsed these suggestions.